Moody's has cut its outlook for the U.S. banking system to negative from stable, citing a substantial decline, that's their quote, in depositor and investor confidence. Ratings agency Moody's has just put 6 banks on downgrade watch, citing reliance on confidence-sensitive uninsured deposits and significant losses on asset portfolios. The SVB collapse reverberating through the U.S. banking system. U.S. prosecutors, they're investigating Signature Bank's work with crypto clients before regulators suddenly seized the lender this past weekend. Justice Department investigators in Washington and Manhattan were examining whether the New York bank took sufficient steps to detect potential money laundering by clients, such as scrutinizing people opening accounts, KYC, and monitoring transactions for signs of criminality. KYC stands for Know Your Customer. British Finance Minister Jeremy Hunt, he's presenting the UK spring budget as he tries to speed up the world's 6th biggest economy, with business lobbying clamoring for sweeteners like lower taxes. Hunt, who came in last year after former Prime Minister Liz Truss's mini budget in September shook UK markets, is due to speak 12:30 GMT. Measures to be announced include expansion of free child care for 1- and 2-year-olds to encourage more people to get back into the workforce, and a rise in tax-free limit for pension contributors to encourage more people to stay in the workforce for longer. Announcements on energy bill support, benefits reform, and pension allowances are also expected. We cross over to London. Arise business analyst Bode Oshosumi waiting for us to take some questions. Bode, good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. The big business story in the UK, Hunt's first spring budget, which has been, leaked so far. The budget is soon to be announced. What do you make of what we're going to hear?
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show. Good morning. Well, budgets are about how much you have and what you can spend it on amid all the competing priorities. And more room has been created by recent improved economic growth in the UK and, of course, falling energy costs, less borrowing and higher revenue receipts. We are talking of about maybe £30 billion of headroom, which is quite considerable that can be allocated to giveaways. But the focus is on 3 very important issues. First, economic growth continues to remain very tepid. Inflation needs to be brought down, of course. Second, pressure on households remains high, and that's stoking a lot of discontent and dissatisfaction, strikes, and so on. So certainly something has to be done. And then, of course, the last main issue is the low labor participation. Despite the fact that there are openings, people are not coming back into the workforce in the way that would have been expected because of high costs in looking after your children, high childcare costs, and the way the pensions are working. So they're trying to tweak many of these things to address these 3 issues. Many farmers even say they don't have enough hands to pick fruit. Shopkeepers and leisure and hospitality staff are in need of staff, and skilled labor, even in very much short supply in the tech-driven sectors. The Chancellor will, of course, defend the 19 to 25% rate rise, which that's the tax which will kick in next month, corporate tax, arguing that these tax cuts cannot be done at this time without risking destabilizing public finances. And then, of course, there will be need for perhaps incentives to override the pain coming from these tax rises. I understand there's going to be some kind of multi-billion pound scheme allowing businesses to reduce their tax bills by investing in the UK. Post-Brexit gains are either not existent or not being harvested. So we're going to get a bit of that. We understand some measures to ease the impact of EU rules for delaying construction of 120,000 homes. To stimulate economic growth, we're going to get 12 new investment zones, also to be created in England to encourage business investment. You will have enhanced capital allowances that can be written off against the taxable profits. Like you said, free childcare will be extended just to encourage more people to be able to go to work so that they can leave their little children to be looked after, and there'll be support funding for many of those who provide this care. And then pension tax-free limits will be raised to encourage people to retire maybe a bit later than planned, all in the bid to get more people in the workforce. There are rumors of a possible increase in fuel duty, perhaps penciled in for April 2023. Also, the £2,500 average household cap on energy bills. We understand it may be extended for another 3 months. So a lot has been leaked out. So I guess there'll be one or two surprises. We just have to wait to see what he says at about maybe 12:30 when we hear this speech.
But there's just so much that has to happen here. To what extent is this UK budget likely to move the needle as far as economic growth in the UK is concerned?
Well, even Hunt himself has called it a hard road to recovery, and he's been very careful to raise expectations. I didn't see any quick wins here. Headwinds, including the drag of sluggish global demand. Even China has just said they're going to be struggling this year. So everyone is scrambling for incentives while facing a greater problem of sticky inflation trend. They're trying to push incentives to companies to be able to get more investment. The fiscal arithmetic is quite difficult at this point in time to be able to give any giveaway. So I think the likelihood is that most people will be disappointed in the scale of what we hear today. But yes, UK may just barely escape a recession. We shouldn't expect a magic wand on growth. Analysts are of the view that we can, however, expect better forecasts for 2023, which may leave less room for a recovery afterwards. But I think we probably have to be a bit more realistic and expect not too much, especially in the near term.
All right, but across the pond in the US, the SVB crash, Moody's has downgraded a few banks. Is the debris clearing in any way at all?
Well, the financial turmoil is still there. It certainly will affect, for example, the FOMC when they meet next week. How much is still being debated, but the path to interest rates hikes is looking murkier. We are seeing an uneasy calm on global markets. Regulators are trying to ease the contagion fears, but the mood still remains fragile. ECB is still leaning towards a 0.5 percentage point hike, though, tomorrow, despite all the turmoil. The U.S. Justice Department and the SEC have moved with investigations into the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank, still at early stages. But of course, the actions of senior executives just before the decision was made will be closely scrutinized. Moody's has been blamed for not saying all this before, and I think they are rushing all kinds of downgrades all of a sudden. You wonder where they were 2 weeks ago before this crash. But they're trying to redeem their image, I guess, by quickly going after 6 US banks, reviewing the potential credit ratings and alerting on potential downgrades. For example, they are saying that if you look at First Republic's bank, they're still relying more on insured deposit funding, a lot of substantial unrealized losses, and the securities portfolios are still quite vulnerable to all kinds of shocks. Many would say these warnings are coming a bit too late, but better late than never. BlackRock analysts yesterday, however, said in their own assessment that this is really bad news for U.S. bank shareholders, adding that they see knock-on effects for the U.S. economy, reinforcing the narrative on recession.
All right, business analyst Bode Oshosemi. Bode, thanks so much for taking us through the headlines. We appreciate your insights as always.